Please note, the following story contains disturbing and/or triggering content, including graphic killing scenes, sexually suggestive content, and content about child abuse and satanic worship. Viewer discretion is advised. Mashville was a small town in Texas, and the residents liked it that way. The town was always tranquil, and the people were always happy. On a Saturday evening, you could feel the cool breeze even on a warm day. The school was full of intelligent and well-mannered children who were always willing to learn. The one place everyone loved to eat at was the diner. People would crowd into there on a Sunday after church, where the priest would give a speech about the Bible and tell people of the events going on in the world. The place was always hot, and people would enjoy walking to the diner and into the cool air conditioning. There were only 4 officers in the town, probably because the only person who would cause trouble was Jake O'Brien. O'Brien was a man people would avoid. He was a known cultist, and since everyone in the town was a proud Christian, he was a fish out of water. He only lived there because he had nowhere else to go. His cult buddies had been arrested 5 years ago for performing sacrifices. He wasn't at the crime scene when the officers showed up, but most people knew he was involved. A rumor was going around that Jake had sacrificed Mrs. Robertson's cat in the name of Satan. The rumor was he waited for her to go to bed, then snuck into her house and cut the cat's throat, then drank its blood, dumping the body in the forest. The truth was that a stray dog had gotten the cat and killed it when Mrs. Robertson had left her door open. Most of the children made up stories about Jake, saying he was really a demon, a serial killer, and even the devil himself. The children were afraid of him, and the parents were too. Jake hated these people. How could they live normal, carefree lives and not realize that they were damned the day they were born? Jake hated their happy lives, their happy days going to church, their happy dinners together, their friends, their schools, and most of all, their TV show. A local mother had hosted a TV show everyone loved. She would come on every day and read a story from the Bible, or some other book that was requested. As long as it wasn't inappropriate, the woman would read it. For some reason, every time Jake saw this show, he wanted to scream. It was a good show by most people's standards, but to Jake, it was horrendous and inane. He hated that show since it came on the air. He was going to get his revenge on this town for making him its boogeyman. On the night of December 22nd, Jake was found dead. He was wearing robes that the other cultists were wearing the night they were arrested. The officers noticed a pentagram carved into a nearby stump, surrounded by words none of them understood. The pentagram was covered with blood, and on top of it was a dog's corpse. One of the officers realized it was his dog and started crying over it. The other officer, Bill, started hearing weeping other than his partner's. They walked toward the sound. They found a young girl, no older than 8, soaked in blood and naked. One of the officers took her to the only doctor in town, while the others examined the crime scene. Jake's body was mangled, and his limbs were torn off. The man's penis was found inside of his throat, and his hand inside of his rectum. Sheriff Brown walked towards the body. What kind of sick bastard could do this? Try to kill a kid? And what the hell could do this to him? Said Officer Tice.
That's what we're here to find out, Tice,
said the sheriff, with a cigarette in his teeth. Hey Brown, look at this, said Officer Ortiz, holding something gold in his hand. The sheriff was handed a golden knife that had dried blood on the tip. Where the hell would O'Brien ever get the money to buy this? Said Tice.
Tice, can you shut up for 2 seconds with the questions? Be more like Bill. He hasn't said a single word so far,
said Brown. Actually, sir, I haven't seen Bill since Phillips left with the kid, said Ortiz. They had no idea that Bill was dead until they found his body. He had hung himself with Jake's intestines, and he had a puddle of urine under him. The words, "Baptize me in fire, and remember the name of Satan's true form," were written on a piece of paper inside of Bill's shirt, and his gun was missing. The little girl they found was questioned about the murder. She said her name was Natasha. Most questions they asked, she would stare at them as if they were roadkill inside of her house. Eventually, the officers gave up asking her questions, and they left the room. The local mother who hosted the TV show asked Natasha if she wanted to be on her show, probably to cheer her up, considering the only thing she could remember was her name. She accepted, and the woman left the room. Brown looked at the girl and noticed something odd about her. When he was around her, he was filled with rage and envy. He had no idea why, but for some reason, different people felt different ways around her. Ortiz felt bitter sadness, and Tice felt uncontrollable joy. Phillips had felt fear around her, and Brown knew that whatever this girl was, she wasn't human. The night Natasha was on the show, things were strange. The clouds had a blackish color, and the sky was almost purple the entire night. This was wrong, and Brown knew in his bones that it was the girl. She came on the show, and the woman started talking to her. "How are you, Natasha?" she asked, but Natasha just looked at her. "How have you been doing?" "Deus est mortus," said Natasha. For some reason, after she said those words, a large amount of the audience started to laugh. Some of them laughed until they were out of air and kept laughing. Others cried until their eyes started to bleed. Brown became filled with rage and grabbed his gun. He ran forward and shot the girl in her forehead. He kept shooting her until he was out of bullets. Then he proceeded to beat her. He was overcome with an animalistic rage in which he couldn't stop. He continued hitting her rapidly and brutally, over and over and over, until her head was a bloody mess on the ground. He smiled while he did it. It was a grin wider than he knew was possible. Brown was pulled away from the girl after beating her for 5 straight hours. He was the only one alive in the room where the show was filmed. He was one of the only ones alive in the town. Sheriff Brown was sentenced to death for the murder of Natasha. He ate his last meal with no regrets. As he sat in the electric chair, he knew he had done something right with his life. Killing her was the one thing he was proud of. Now he could die in peace. As the priest read from his Bible, Brown saw something behind him. It was Natasha, smiling with a snake-like tongue sticking out of her mouth. With her rotten yellow teeth and pale face, she looked at him. Brown screamed and shouted, but no one else saw her. As he drifted off, he knew his world was doomed. What's up, everybody? Lone Wolf here. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to tonight's video. In case anyone is interested, all of the various elements used in this video, including pictures, music, sound effects, and stories, will be linked in the description below. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, click the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new video. If anybody has any personal stories or story recommendations for me, or any advice to help improve the channel, there will be links to all of my social media platforms in the description. I'm mostly active on Twitter and on Instagram, but I also have an email, a Discord server, and a TikTok account that you can message me on as well. Until next time, stay spooky. And remember,
the hunt begins when the moon is full.